There's not much standing in this place now, but in the 7th century there was a monastery here that attracted students from hundreds of miles that way and sent missionaries hundreds of miles that way. In the early 8th century, a man in the north of England called Bede was writing a historical work that would come to be known as the Ecclesiastical History of the English People. It's a foundational text in English history, but Ireland features quite a lot in that work as well. In the centuries before Bede, there was a lot of over and back between these islands, and Bede notes one movement in particular. Englishmen in the 7th century, monks and laymen, coming to study in or to join Irish monasteries. When the Justinianic plague hit these islands in the year 664, Bede notes that many of the English nation were in Ireland at that time. And he explains that most had gone for the sake of studies or to live a more intense monastic life. Some went from one monastic school to another here, and he adds that the Irish monasteries willingly received them all and took care to supply them with food, as also to furnish them with books to read and their teaching free of charge. One of the sites named by Bede as attracting English monks is Rath Melsigi, and scholars today agree that Rath Melsigi is this very site in the townland called Clonmelsh in County Carlow. Bede even tells us some details about who came here. Ethelhun was the name of one, and Egbert was another. Both of these caught that plague we mentioned earlier. Ethelhun died, but Egbert survived. When he was at death's door, Egbert left the infirmary of the monastery and sat alone some place around here, and he wept over his sins and vowed to remain in exile and to increase his dedication to prayer and fasting if he survived. He ended up living to 90 and was a model monk. We're told, for example, that he only ate bread and drank only skimmed milk. But at some point during his long life of prayer, Egbert began to feel a call from God. He knew that there were pagan tribes of Germanic peoples in Northern Europe, and he knew that they spoke a language like his own. And a great desire grew within him to bring the gospel to these people, these very distant cousins of his. He was all set to go, but through a vision, he was warned not to go to these pagan tribes and to go to Iona instead. This he did, but the dream of mission wasn't forgotten. Other English monks here in Rath Melsigi took it up. The first was a man by the name of Wigbert, who went on his own and he preached for 2 years, but he didn't have much success. Finally, Rath Melsigi sent out a proper mission team, 12 monks, led by a man called Willibrord. Now, one of Willibrord's biographers tells us that he had come to Rath Melsigi at the age of 20, like a bee coming to suck nectar from flowers. And after 20 years here, he had a full honeycomb ready to share on the mission. This group of 12 left Rath Melsigi, taking with them some books, one of which survives to this day, carrying writing from Willibrord's own hand. They got to work preaching the gospel in Frisia, in what is now the Netherlands and Luxembourg. This time, the Rath Melsigi mission was very successful, drawing many to the Christian faith and building churches and monasteries with Utrecht as their headquarters. Bede, in his history, he reports on all of this success, and he adds that Willibrord is still alive as Bede is writing. He is now a venerable old man, having laboured as a missionary bishop for 36 years. In recent years, Willibrord has become better known in this part of Ireland, and his relics are venerated in Carlow Cathedral. But he has long been remembered with gratitude in places like Utrecht and Echternach, where he died. In Echternach, in Luxembourg, there is to this day a very strange hopping procession that takes place annually in honour of St Willibrord. He's remembered as the man whose preaching brought the Frisian people to the baptismal font. But we shouldn't forget that all the honey of this Englishman's preaching was harvested in the spiritual meadow of Rath Melsigi.